Hey everyone, welcome back to Automation. So today is an exciting day because thanks to the most recent Humble Bundle, I've upgraded to Vegas 18. That's what this video is being rendered and edited with. So if you notice any glaring issues, please let me know. Second important thing is that my Bugo stickers are still on sale on my website, automotiveflux.com. I have sent out like 100 of them at this point. We're over 100 orders total, which is amazing. I think I've got about 120 stickers left, which if you've been keeping track, because the doubling sale is still going, that's about 60 orders of one, but realistically probably 40 more orders because a lot of people get more. So yeah, check them out before they're gone. So it's Friday night tonight, and it's been a long week. I'm tired, and I'm ready to just kick back and play some automation. So that's what we're going to be doing today, as is the usual. Although generally speaking, I record a little bit earlier in the week than this. What I'm going to be doing today is not in the magnum opus territory. We're going to be just kind of taking a Miata. I don't know why, but I've been thinking about those recently, and making it a terrible knockoff variant of one. That's what I'm going to try to do. There's a Miata body in this game, so let me show you. Yeah, so we have this here, 2009 Coupe. I believe this would be an NC or ND Miata. I mean, I don't know enough about Miatas to know, but let's just take one of these and see if I can't just make something cool. Let's go for the smaller one. Yeah, so it basically looks like this. It kind of has the front end. Actually, you know what? It is the newest one. It says 2009, but this thing is definitely the newest body style. So steel, a monocoque chassis with a steel, or monocoque steel chassis with steel panels, because I think that just makes the most sense. A longitudinal engine in the front, and I don't exactly know what is in a Miata for the suspension setup, so we'll just go multi-link and double wishbone. So the engine is where things can get interesting. Actual Miatas, I actually don't know what the engine is in the newer variants, but the older cars like the NA and B, they were 1.6 and 1.8 liter 4-cylinders, pretty ubiquitous. They're, yeah, Miata engines have been taken to all kinds of extremes. It's probably the most popular, like, small convertible coupe in the entire North America, at least. But, yeah, why don't we do something similar? Inline 4, how do I want to do this? Let's try cast iron, and then we'll go for some ridiculous extreme. So I'm going to go for maximum bore size and minimum stroke size. Because yes, now that those have been untethered, we can really mess with it. So the bore is huge and the stroke is really, really short. Theoretically, this engine should be able to rev like crazy. I'm hoping for 12,000 RPM, but we'll have to see. In order to facilitate that, we're going to have to go dual overhead cam. We'll do, I guess, 4 valves per cylinder so we can get VVT, and it's actually looking like a proper engine now. Aluminum head on there, and yeah, let's see. I'm just going to go for really high-classed components here, because otherwise we're not going to be able to get what I want, and what I want is maximum RPM, even if it doesn't actually make any power. I don't know, 1.8 liter, it's not going to be big regardless. So compression and all that we'll come back to, but I'll give it VVL and VVT, and I'm going to increase that to 12K. No turbos on this build, and we'll just go for, I was thinking EFI. So older Miatas are not exactly powerhouses, which is why people tend to fit turbos, superchargers, engine swaps, basically anything to improve the power performance of the chassis, because the chassis can take a lot more than the engine has. But there is that old saying, and I think this does ring true, that it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. So we're going to keep that approach today. With that in mind, it's making 114 horsepower, and then it immediately shatters and explodes its guts all over the pavement for basically the rest of the rev range. If there was a rest of the rev range, it stops somewhere around 7,000 RPM, so that's a good sign. Let me try to improve this. So there are quite a few ways to do this in this game. Basically, one of them is to increase the springs and lifters, which will, as you can see, kind of help us with valve float issues. So we're going to bring that all the way up, and now the engine takes a little bit longer to die, somewhere around 10,000 RPM. I'm curious to see what the AI tune can give us if I tune it for power, so let's see what that does. Oh, I don't think it was very happy with that. Balance shafts up and down. Yeah, it doesn't know what to do. Yeah, it kind of seems like 12,000 RPM with this engine is not actually within our reach. This thing can theoretically go up to 20,000 with the pistons and stuff that I've selected, but it's just not particularly liking this. I am disappointed, honestly. Okay, I've decided to do something, and this something is bad. I'm going to increase the quality of everything, and I'm also going to just go completely all out on this engine to try and get the 12,000 RPM limit that I'm hopeful for. So no mufflers, nothing crazy like that. Our exhaust is decent, actually. It's probably a little bit too open, in fact. We're up to 7,700 RPM. And we'll just go for that race. Oh, there we go. Our header, I guess, was a little bit too restrictive. That's 250 horsepower at 10,000, nearly RPM. Back at the fuel system, I'm going to switch to direct injection, and I'm going to switch to per cylinder with a race intake. The ignition timing is something I should probably mess with as well. Okay, so funny story. We're up to 290 or 296.5 horsepower. I don't care what the curve looks like. It is blowing up. There's a random little JPEG down here of an explosion, which is great. We're at 10,000 RPM now, and the car does actually rev up to 12,000 RPM. It's just doing it begrudgingly. It does not want to be up there. As you can see, the exhaust is actually a little bit restrictive, and the intake manifold is also a little bit restrictive for this. So what I'm going to do is switch over to this and increase the size of it. Hopefully we can get a little bit more out of that. So we can get more power fairly easily just by increasing the VVL profile. We can go up another 30 horsepower, but that's not going to allow for the 12,000 RPM random goal that I set today because I don't know, man. I just wanted to do 10,000 or 12,000 RPM. 10,000 is still good. Like that's a lot of RPM. This is basically a motorcycle engine in a car. Although it does have a bit of a knotted header and it is a little bit large, 1.8 liters. But yeah, that's still a lot. 308 horsepower. The curve is bumpy as heck. The torque curve isn't actually too bad because it starts high and it kind of just stays all the same around here. Relatively flat is not bad. The power curve is a little off, and this is way too much overdrive, but whatever. Oh wow, we make more power on E85. Yikes, I probably should have gone with that to begin with. Yeah, E85 it is. Okay, I'm going to say that I'm happy with this. We're running E85, 322 horsepower, 230 newton meters of torque, both nearly 10,000 RPM or at 10,000 RPM. That is a lot of power, way too much overdrive, but I think that's kind of fun. And yeah, I know it has unutilized octane game, but this was never meant to be good. It's going to be a cool engine, that's for darn sure. That's a decent amount of power. It's going to be a fast car, hopefully. But I basically threw an entire catalog at this thing, so yeah, you kind of hope that it's actually got some speed in it. We'll see. Okay, so for the actual car itself, let's go convertible. I've made a few cars with this body in the past. This is the, I guess it'd be RC version of the Miata, and then this is some weird non-existent thing, or just a car with a hardtop. But yeah, let's just go like regular top, and the overall body aesthetic is pretty much perfect, so I'm gonna leave it as is. Miatas were made to be red, so yeah, it's gonna be red. I might have to change this red a little bit though. I'm not super happy with it. Just a little darker, something like that. And there's a loud Honda Civic flying by my house. Okay, so the goal is to do some 6 skids. So I'm just gonna go rear wheel drive, manual 6-speed, and open diff. Maybe a geared LSD in the back of this thing. It does have 300 horsepower. Let's not kid around. It's going to be fairly quick right out of the gate. I just want to put some tires on it before we get to the actual fixtures because I'm hoping that that'll help make it a little bit nicer. So 240, 235. That's not a bad size for this car. That actually looks pretty decent. Might be a bit bigger than the real life Miata tires. Could actually be smaller. I don't know what they are, but I'm just going to go with whatever looks the best on this model. Before we go too far, something that I do want to say, and I see this a lot in the comments, but people kind of backseat game a ton when I'm playing this game, which is okay to an extent, but honestly, I would just encourage you to go out and buy the game and play it for yourself, and then do the things that you're telling me to do. Yeah, buy the game. It's fun. Just it's worth the $30. Just buy these games and then enjoy them and make your own cars and do your own ideas. It's worth it. Trust me. Links in the description, and they are not affiliate links. New bug I've noticed in this game is yeah, the engines don't like to appear sometimes. So the way to fix that, from what I can tell, is go into visibility, hide the engine, and then unhide it, and then it'll appear. It seems to work every time. Okay, I just spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out what wheels I want, but I'm going with white, just because I like white wheels, and I'm planning to get some white wheels for my Tiburon at some point. So yeah, white wheels with red brakes, classic. And I'm hopeful. These are 16s, but I think they look pretty decent. I had 17s and I thought they were too big, so yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to be semi-realistic with this. Obviously not that much because the engine is ridiculous, but just a touch of realism does add some fun to it. So let's get back into the light design, because I think it's time that I slap some knockoff Miata parts on this. Should we make it into a Miata Porsche with the fried egg style headlights? Actually, not awful. It kind of looks like, from this sort of angle, it looks like a modern, or not really that modern because they don't make them, and they haven't for a long time, but the latest version of the MR2, weirdly enough, from this sort of viewpoint. You know what? I don't hate it, and I don't hate it so much that I'm just going to shrink them, and I'm going to roll with it. This is the knockoff Porsche-ish Miata. Oh boy. So while I'm getting my ugly design characteristics out of the way, and speaking of Porsche, we may as well talk about some ideas that I've had recently. I don't know why, but I'm always thinking about like builds and strange things. Yeah, I have a lot of things on my mind at all times. What I mean by that is basically, I've got an idea. My garage is kind of full of just random... Oh man, it looks like a Model S. Oh no. Oh, it looks like it has a face. But my garage is full of kind of just random extra Infiniti parts from when I parted out an Infiniti G35 Coupe. All of this on my second channel, by the way, link in the description. And I was able to sell a lot of those parts. In fact, I was able to sell enough of them to be able to offset the cost of what I paid for the car, and eventually paid myself back. It took a long time, but I was able to do it. But I still have a bunch of stuff, and some of it is actually worth money. So my idea is to help encourage myself to clean out the garage. What I am going to do is set up a little separate bank account, or I guess just a little spot where I can store some money, sell everything that I can out of the garage, and then I'm going to use exclusively that account to try to get myself all the way to a Porsche. Now, this is not some like weird scheme thing, you know, like those like day traders will be like, oh yeah, I started with $500, then I bought a Lamborghini or something. Yeah, that's not what I'm planning to do here. My idea, quite simply, is to buy stuff and then flip stuff, only using the money that's in that account until it grows enough that I can actually buy something big with it. That's the end goal. Have you ever heard of that guy who, I mean, you probably heard about him in school, at least we did here, where he had a paperclip and he traded it up and eventually got a house out of it? Kind of a crazy situation and a very unique situation, but it's sort of like that, except it's with money and I'm not limiting myself to trades. I intend to actually like buy and sell things instead. So timeline for this, years, literally years, because stuff like this does not come easy. A more realistic approach would be like to set a financial goal, say $5,000, and then say I'm able to make $500 from my sale of stuff in the garage, which I think is reasonable. Then I can put that money towards buying something else, and then fixing it and selling it, or maybe a trade or something like that. Actually, let me give you like a full-on example. So a guy is attempting something similar to this on a forum that I was reading, and he's actually been fairly successful. He bought a BMW 5 Series, and it just so happened that the wheels on that 5 Series were worth the cost of buying the car alone. So he used his funds essentially to buy the car, and then sold the wheels off the car to make his money back and I guess recoup the funds, and then everything else on top of that, which ended up being $1,000-ish, including the sale of the car, was extra. So in the end, he ended up making around $1,000 on that whole effort, I guess. I'm confident that this is something that I can pull off. I just think it's going to take absolutely ages to get there. But that's sort of part of the appeal, is having like this long-term project. And then what I want to be able to do is kind of experience a lot of different cars through this as well. Because my end goal is to sell this stuff from my garage and then go out and buy a car that needs some kind of repair that I can do within the budget of my build, I guess. And then say I'm able to fix that car, then I can sell it theoretically at a profit, and then add that money into my account, and then also take whatever I've earned plus the money I have in there to go buy another car, and then just keep going up and up and up and up. So it's a good way to experience a lot of different kinds of vehicles. The problems I can see are, number one, that's a lot of time and dedication, and there's also a lot of space. And time-wise, it might actually just make more sense to like do more hours at my job or something like that. But I just feel like it's more fun to try and get it in a different way. I don't know. I'm just a bit of a dreamer, and I thought about this, so we'll see if I actually end up doing it. The reason that I picked Porsche is just because it's kind of cool to say that it's like, oh yeah, I got this Porsche for free. That's basically the gist of it. Except it's not free, it's a ridiculous amount of effort. So yeah, that's my next project idea after I finish my go-kart, which is almost done. Maybe saying that with a lot of grace, because it's pretty darn close, but I mean, I still have a lot of time left to get it fully sorted. Again, all of this is going to take place on my second channel. First thing I got to do is sell all my extra parts, and then we'll see where things go. So back to the car, now that I've taken a 10-minute detour, I have done a little bit of work. We have a front end, at least sort of outline of one. I like this sort of grille here. It's an aggressive looking little lad with a bit of a chin. This isn't actually a grille at the moment. I just didn't decide what I wanted to do with it in that way, but obviously it needs a lot more detail, and yeah, it needs a lot more detail. That's the gist of it. Back end, I got these lights that I really like the look of on this car, and I just kind of need to fake in the rest. So give me a bit. I'm going to figure this out. I'll get back to you with some finished results. The whole back end kind of just looks squished at the back. It's not really quite right. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I'm trying. I think I'm gonna have to do like a big grill or something underneath this to fit it in, but I just like that sort of style. This is a composition of 4 different things put together, basically just these little bands, lights, and then a grill to sort of mix it in, but it needs more. So I don't have Japanese emblems from the looks of things, so we're gonna pretend that this is a Porsche, because that's the only one that really fits when you look at the front. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of haphazardly slap some badges on this. It's not great. I'm going to have to do something with this. It's just not quite how I want. So here's what I've done so far. Pretty much just kind of slapped it together, trying to make something that looks reasonable and isn't awful. It's more difficult than it sounds. I added a hood bump because I just felt the hood needed a little bit of definition, and that hood bump is pretty subtle, which is nice. Back end is complete. We have the MX-5 RS badge on there because I thought it was fun. Front end is done, pretty much. I just added wipers and a door handle to it. We're not going to have an interior, so it's just nice and simple. And you can see the engine is hiding out in there, just sulking away. A little bit of a throwback Mazda thing on the bumper. I don't know. I'm not super happy with this, but I think it's decent enough. It's a good start, if nothing else. Yeah, you know, one thing I just realized, that it's December, and this is the first video of December, so yeah, we only have 4 more videos this year. Actually, 3 more videos this year, and obviously some kind of Christmas special. Yikes. There's not a lot left to cap off the year, so it's going to be good. Moving on to the drivetrain. Now, this thing thinks it'll do Actually, what does it think it'll do? 349. Let's see if we can get up to that. Okay, so it'll do 332 kilometers an hour, and then we do have a bit of an overdrive in the bit there. So that's not bad actually at all. Taking a look at the car itself, we have a little bit of aero, and then I don't think there's no aero on the back at all. So it's all going to be front downforce on this, which is strange. The car is complaining desperately of brake fade and also oversteer issues and a lot of other problems. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So it's going to be 345 on the front and 345 on the back, a little bit wider than I had it before, but that's what the game is sort of suggesting here. That's a lot of tire, so yeah, no complaints. I mean, having more tires is not a bad thing, but 87% sportiness is not ideal. Brake stuff is definitely a problem. I'm going to jump up to 4-piston calipers on the front, which should help with that. And then the backs are probably too big, so we'll shrink that down. The car weighs 1,575 kilos, so it's actually quite fat. I think I want to quickly go and do this to help change that. Okay, it barely makes any difference, but that's something at least. So what the game wants me to do is run really small front tires and fairly large rear tires, which is not exactly realistic, but I guess we'll have a scattered set for this to try and make it just that little bit better in terms of drivability. I want it to actually be able to decently handle in this game, so we may as well go for it. Brake fade is definitely still a problem. We're going to up the pad type, I guess, closer to race, and that should fix some of it. This is the maximum size of the brakes unless we go bigger wheels. Okay, bigger wheels actually does help the car in terms of the drivability stuff. It doesn't look too bad with 17s, so I'm going to use that opportunity to make those larger and still brake fade. Okay, 6-piston front calipers seems to have fixed it. That's way overkill for this car, so we'll see if that actually works in game. Yeah, we do have uplift, but it's not significant, so I'm not really worried about that. So we'll just leave that. Everything in the interior is already set. Safety and stuff is already set. Suspension is already set. I think I got a decent setup going. And the overall statistics, 322 horsepower, 12,000 RPM from a cast iron inline 4. If I made that engine aluminum, we would lose a decent amount of weight. That's something to consider for the future. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it right now. Okay, we lost 10 kilos by having an all aluminum engine. Better than nothing, question mark? Yeah, the car's a little bit heavy, but we do have a nice setup going. I think it's going to be decent. So let's try it out in BeamNG, see how it does. New rims, new setup, and a little bit better ride height. This should be a bit of a cracking Miata. I forgot to give it a name. Alright, so our Miata Porsche thing has made it into BeamNG. The windows are fairly tinted, but not enough that you can't see the inside of it, so I probably should have tinted those a little bit more. The red color is beautiful in this game. It has really come out nicely. 17s look great, back end looks great. Front end, yeah, it needs a little more effort, it needs a little more work. Yeah, I'm not super pleased with it, but I do actually like the Porsche egg headlights on this. I think they could be moved in a little bit off the fenders, but other than that, they're kind of nice. It's a weird sight to see on a Miata-esque vehicle. Now, the car itself is an interesting beast. I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see if it works, but it very reluctantly revs all the way to 12,000 RPM. Yeah, slow revs, but revs indeed. Okay, let's go first gear. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is a very strange car. I like what I've done though. I think making these weird kind of engines is actually a lot of fun. Having something that revs all the way to 12,000 RPM isn't super common. I mean, it's easy enough to do, as you can tell, and we obviously don't make our maximum power at 12,000, but I'm still revving and shifting that high just because I want to hear the noises it makes. So I gave this car pretty short gears. The brakes are actually really, really strong. Wow. I guess that's what happens when you give it 6 pistons up front. My goodness. That's what the game was suggesting, so that's what I went with. Might have been a little bit too much, but yeah, I mean, we got brakes, so that's a good thing. Oh yeah, it stops quick. This map, by the way, is the East Coast USA map in BeamNG, and I don't know, I don't usually come here, but I figured some narrow roads could be fun with this car, and why not take it on a little bit of an East Coast adventure down by the sea, because why not? 140 kilometers an hour, we still got a lot of gas in the tank, boys. Come on now, we're not going to get up to our top speed of over 300 on these roads, but I don't know, I feel pretty safe with these brakes. I keep going down into first by accident. I think I might have made first a little bit too short. Actually, no, it's a little bit too long, if anything. You can get up to over 60 kilometers an hour. Very, very high rev at that point, but I mean, you can go fast in first gear in this car. Oh, you can go fast off a cliff and directly into the sea as well. Nice sounding rig though, that startup is great. So I'm looking for opinions, as I normally am. What do you think of this car? Type down below and let me know what you think could be done to improve it. Obviously, if you have the game, then give it a go yourself. You basically saw the entire build, so just copy me and try and do it your way and see if it works. That's the thing with this game, right? And I guess these games in general. It's not perfect to real life, so if you know something works in real life, it might not actually work in automation and also in BeamNG. You have to understand the game's logic to get things perfect. And I have 300 hours in automation, but honestly I still don't understand it fully. Most people on the Discord know a lot more than I do. Oh man. As you can tell. Let's turn inland for a little bit and see what awaits us on these narrow streets. Actually, I mean, they're 2-lane roads, they're not that narrow. It's decent enough to drive, I'm not worried. I probably should be. Oh, that's sketchy. Oh, that's really sketchy. Oh no. Okay, we're good. Yeah, this is a weird car because maximum launch strength would probably be around 10,000 RPM because that's where our peak torque and peak power are. But it's just so fun to rev higher that... I don't know. I can't shift to 10. I don't want to. Don't make me. 156 kilometers an hour in third gear. And we're losing power uphill. I guess we lack that torque. This thing is naturally aspirated and it is tiny, so yeah, not that much torque overall. They say that 300 horsepower is the sweet spot, and I'm kind of seeing it in a vehicle like this. I don't think I'd want 300 horsepower in my truck. It just wouldn't be very strong. But at 400 in that truck is perfect. 300 in this car, perfect. Yeah, that 300 horsepower thing, I think it was Jalopnik that said that. It comes with a lot of caveats. And I know back in the days of old, vehicles pretty much had no power at all, but yeah, these days we like having power. Pretty much every single vehicle these days, even soccer mom SUVs, have a turbo. Like, you can you can clap the average sports car from 10 years ago in a soccer mom CUV if you really want to. Like, that's how it is these days. So, with a little bit of driving around, I think we get the idea. This thing, pretty darn baller. Actually a lot of fun to drive, and not a terrible handling vehicle either, although I haven't exactly put it through its paces in that regard. It's a hard one because it doesn't have much torque. It kind of almost is a rotary in the sense that you need to be high up in the RPM to actually do anything, which is fine, but it means these corner exits are weak as heck, especially considering the weight of this beast. I think if I was going to do this one again, I'd probably make this chassis quite a bit lighter, just to go for some aluminum components or something, because in its current state it is a little bit hefty. It could probably drop an extra 500 kilos, which would be extensive weight reduction, but that would make it so much faster. One last big rip in third gear. Oh, we're hitting it hard, and I have nowhere to go. Oh, jump the fence into the trees, and we found a new road. Would you look at that? Beautiful. Well, boys, I'll see you again next week for some more content. Don't forget the Buco stickers. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel as well. The subscription rate at this point is actually a lot higher than I thought. There's a lot of people joining up here thanks to some of my past videos, like the minivan one, which was a surprise hit. I didn't think people would actually like the Hemi-swapped caravan, but apparently they do. I'll do more stuff like that, don't worry. Let's go down the narrow bridge as we close this video off. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll see you again soon. Very soon. Alright, it's time to thank those who have chosen to support this channel via the join button. Specifically those who are V8s in the tiers. There's i4, i4 Turbo, and V8. And yeah, thank you to everybody in every tier. But most of all, Overlord, QT Bear, Terry01, J Pope, Davis Heister, The German Dude, Nat64, Sinlab, Badger, Baja Blast, Trevor Cousin, Goofy Plays, Phoenix Shark, and welcome back, Order of the Valiant. I appreciate your support on this channel. Everybody, some of you 37 months for Overlord, crazy. 35 for QT Bear, insane times. It's crazy to think that I've even been making these videos for that long, but it's been great. Like, this is my outlet, this is my creative outlet, so I really do enjoy this time. Thanks guys, see you again next week.